Well, welcome to the 700 Club. There was a remarkable change of tone at last night's Republican presidential debate. Instead of personal attacks and insults, this time the candidates were actually polite.
But even though they were nicer to each other, they still clearly had their differences on everything from the economy to Israel to Islam. David Brody brings us the story from Miami.
A strange sight and sound in South Florida.
I cannot believe how civil it's been up here.
Donald Trump set the tone for the evening.
One of the biggest political events anywhere in the world is happening right now with the Republican Party. Millions and millions of people are going out to the polls and they're voting. The Republican establishment, or whatever you want to call it, should embrace what's happening.
Even with this kinder, gentler approach, attention focused on the frontrunner when it came to policy differences.
And I want to leave Social Security as is. I want to make our country rich again so we can afford it.
Anyone who tells you that Social Security can stay the way it is lying.
On trade, Ted Cruz took issue with Trump's threat to level a 45% tax on the Chinese, believing that they would just pass it on to American consumers.
How does it help you to have a president come and say, I'm going to put a 45% tax on diapers when you buy diapers, on automobiles when you buy automobiles, on clothing when you buy clothing? That hurts you.
Honestly, it's just the opposite. What will happen if they don't behave? We will put on a tax of some amount, and it could be a large amount, and we will start building those factories and those plants. Instead of in China, we'll build them here, and people will buy product from here rather than buying it through China, where we're being ripped off.
The candidates also disagreed on pursuing peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Trump has received criticism for saying that he'd be neutral in negotiations.
I don't think we need a commander-in-chief who is neutral between the Palestinian terrorist and one of our strongest allies in the world, the nation of Israel.
I'm a negotiator. If I go in, I'll say I'm pro-Israel, and I've told that to everybody and anybody that would listen. But I would like to at least have the other side think I'm somewhat neutral as to them so that we can maybe get a deal done.
There is no peace deal possible with the Palestinians at this moment. There just isn't.
I don't believe there is any long-term permanent peace solution, and I think pursuing that's the wrong thing to do.
Trump also had to defend his recent comments that he thinks Islam hates America.
Did you mean all 1.6 billion Muslims?
I mean a lot of them. I mean a lot of them.
I know that a lot of people find appeal in the things Donald says because he says what people wish they could say. The problem is presidents can't just say anything they want. It has consequences here and around the world.
I don't want to be so politically correct. I like to solve problems.
The question of a contested convention also came up in case no one secures enough delegates to win the nomination outright.
You have to earn the delegates in order to be picked, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
First of all, I think I'm going to have the delegates, okay? I think. Let's see what happens.
Cruz tried to use the moment to tout his success against Trump.
We have at this point beaten Donald in 8 separate states all over the country.
But I beat him in 13 contests. He never mentions that.
What Cruz does mention is his belief that Trump's voters are not very well informed. Those remarks to CBN News led to major headlines across the country.
Listen, Donald does well with voters who have relatively low information, who are not that engaged and who are angry, and they see him as an angry voice.
After the debate, Trump pushed back.
My voters are very, very high-end and smart, and we really cover every spectrum.
The question going forward is, will there be a home field advantage when voters go to the polls next Tuesday? In other words, will Marco Rubio win here in Florida, and will John Kasich win in Ohio? If both lose and Trump wins, well, then Ted Cruz will finally get that one-on-one matchup he's been wanting for some time. But will it be too late? David Brody, CBN News, on South Beach in Miami, Florida.
Well, isn't democracy wonderful? We've had such a wonderful campaign so far. Please don't make it a spectator sport. It has a tendency to turn into that. Please don't. Please vote if your state has not voted yet. Please make sure you're registered to vote both in the general election and take part in the primaries. Well, Ephraim Graham has the rest of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, ISIS is committing genocide against Christians and other religious groups. That is the finding from a report by the Knights of Columbus and another group called In Defense of Christians. The report increases the pressure on the White House to officially call the ISIS actions genocide. The report details how Christians have been killed, kidnapped, raped, and how religious property has been destroyed. Earlier this month, the White House said the legal determination for using the term genocide had not yet been met. But critics say reports like this prove otherwise, and Congress is pushing the State Department and White House to make a decision. We'll have an in-depth report on this serious issue next week here on the 700 Club. Extremely heavy rains have led to flooding in Louisiana. That's forcing thousands of people to evacuate their homes, and forecasters expect more rain to come. Heather Sells has the story.
People in northern Louisiana have been getting out while they can. Entire subdivisions are underwater and more rain is expected.
The big concern right now, the threat of a levee breach. It's why the governor has ordered a mandatory evacuation for more than 3,000 families.
In some areas, more than 20 inches of rain has fallen, triggering rescues by boat and special vehicles designed for high water. Operation Blessing is helping families in northern Louisiana with their damaged homes. Carol Chavis's home took in 3 feet of water.
About 5 o'clock in the morning, my husband got up. He heard some noises downstairs and went downstairs to check and stepped into a foot of water.
The severe weather is not confined to Louisiana. Up to 10 inches of rain has fallen in communities along the Mississippi, in states like Tennessee and Arkansas. The rain is also pummeling parts of Texas.
It's going to happen. There's not much use in worrying about it because it's just a fact of life. When it rains this much at one time in these areas, it floods.
Forecasters say the region can expect more rain through Sunday, but it's expected to be light and scattered, which could help end further flooding and allow homes and properties to begin drying out. Heather Sells, CBN News.
You can learn more about what Operation Blessing is doing in this difficult situation and how you can help by going to its website, ob.org. America says farewell to Nancy Reagan today. For the last 2 days, the public has lined up to pay final respects to the former First Lady and wife of President Ronald Reagan at his library in Simi Valley, California.
I had a lot of respect for the Reagans and for Nancy.
This lady meant a lot. I've seen her do wonderful things for the community.
Speakers at the service include her children, Ron and Patty Davis. The guest list is full of names reflecting the Reagans' years in Hollywood, along with their time in government, including 4 of the 5 last First Ladies and family members of every president, dating back to John F. Kennedy. CBS LA reports both Nancy and Ronald Reagan stayed involved in the Bel Air Presbyterian Church in California and often gave time, money, and even clothing to help with the poor. There is a new celebrity in the Hindu nation of Nepal. The country was devastated last year by a tragic earthquake. Now, Superbook's Gizmo is helping children to laugh again and enjoy some valuable lessons. Lucille Toulousan brings us that story.
Superbook's mascot Gizmo has only been in Nepal for 3 weeks, but he has already reached more than 30,000 children. CBN believes that introducing one of the main characters of the Bible animation series Superbook to churches and schools will increase viewership of the program. The Nepali version of Superbook began airing on national television 2 weeks before the big earthquake struck in Nepal last year. But with Gizmo and the Superbook team going to the schools, mostly Hindu in remote villages, its audience is growing bigger.
Gizmo is fast gaining new fans here in Nepal. The children love him and they can learn moral values from its Bible stories.
Up on stage, Gizmo talked in Nepali language to the children. He challenged them to courageously fight their bad habits, just like David was brave enough to fight Goliath. Gizmo's bubbly and funny character delighted the students and school administrators as well.
Thank you for bringing Gizmo to our school and introducing Superbook. This will be a big help for our students.
Schools in Nepal are mostly Hindu, and this poses a challenge to show Superbook to the students because it is Christian in nature.
One principal said, oh, this is against our culture and traditions. So our Nepali team leader challenged him, just watch one episode of Superbook and tell me what you think. So he watched it, and he saw that these Superbook stories teach the same good morals and the same good character traits that they teach in their schools. And then they were very glad to promote Superbook.
These children who met Gizmo in person on a Saturday couldn't wait to get home to watch Superbook, which aired later on that same day. And because only a few homes had television in this remote village in Kanchanpur, this bunch of kids gathered in one hut to watch Superbook for the first time.
I am very happy to meet Gizmo and watch him in Superbook. I learned from the story today that we should be obedient and respectful to our parents. I really like Superbook very much, and we will watch it again.
Gizmo's tour has just begun. The Superbook team is going to visit many churches and schools across Nepal, especially now that the Association of Private Boarding Schools has approved the Superbook tours in schools.
One of our goals is to see children transformed and develop good character. Then when this generation grows up, they can have a positive effect upon the nation.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Dangadi, Nepal.
The smiles on those children's faces says it all. Gordon?
That certainly does. If you want to see the stories of the Bible get to the children of the world, how do you do that? Well, you can do it one way, by joining the 700 Club. This is just a part of what we do. We are a lot more than a TV show. We want to reach the world with the good news, with the gospel. If you want to be a part of it, join with us. How much is it? It's just $20 a month, 65 cents a day. So call us now, 1-800-759-0700.